Welcome back to Screenfish Radio. I am really excited to be here with you today on our last podcast of 2024. And for the end of the year, we are taking to the seas and we are talking about Moana 2, the sequel to Disney's mega hit. I'm so excited to have with us today Julie Levac and Catherine Erskine. Welcome back to you both.
Thank you. Yeah, I went on a cruise for the first time this year, so I am definitely uh fully able to discuss the idiosyncrasies of the Polynesian oceans.
That's amazing.
You're
You really
already a
take your work
wayfinder.
seriously. I knew I was seeing Moana, so I went on a cruise.
Yeah. I really I take these things really seriously.
You just were one with the sea.
Moana 2 takes place 3 years after her adventure with the demigod Maui and the island goddess Tafiti, as she spends her days exploring other islands near her home island of Motunui in the hopes of finding people connected to the ocean. In a vision, her ancestor Tatavasa reveals why none of those people are connected anymore. The malicious storm god Nalo wanted power over the mortals, so he sunk a legendary island called Matufetu, which connected all the islands down to the depths of the ocean. Reteaming with Maui and a crew of her own people, Moana sets back out onto the ocean seas to try and restore balance and bring her people home. As always, this podcast is rated S for spoilers.
Mhm.
Julie, Kat, what do you think of Moana 2?
I I kind of had higher expectations because my daughter had already seen it and said she liked it better than the first one. And I thought that that was really, really high praise because I love the first Moana. I think it's excellent. I got to be honest with you, I felt like it fell a little bit short. I thought it was good, but I also felt it was a little bit disjointed in some places. Some of it felt like Moana, and some of it felt like I was getting what was it, like Hercules vibes? I don't know what it was. Yeah, with that the Batwoman. I can't even remember
Yes,
her
yes.
name. But when she did her musical number, I was like, why am I getting Hercules vibes? And then I'm like, wait a second, did Lin-Manuel Miranda not get involved in this one because the music and the score felt very different, and I was kind of looking forward to another kind of musical phenomenon like Moana 1. Story wise, again, I just felt it was a little bit disjointed. There were some things that I really appreciated, some things that I think fell short. So I'm definitely torn on this one.
Do you know the story of how this got made?
No.
No.
Okay, so they were working on this as a TV series. This
Okay.
was originally
Interesting.
going to be a TV series, and they decided to cut it into a movie.
Huh. So I'm
Yeah, you could
wondering
see
if the
almost like the
sorry.
different episodes in the disjointedness.
That's what I'm thinking. It
Mhm.
felt disjointed because they've intentionally made them like their own little episodes. Wow.
Felt like some of the
That
animation
kind of
was
makes
different too.
makes sense, but it doesn't make it better for me.
Yeah. Was Lin-Manuel Miranda on this?
No.
Yeah, you could tell. I completely agree with Julie. I went in with higher expectations because even some of the adults that I know were like, didn't come out right away and say like, "Oh, I loved it better than the first one," but they're like, "I liked it so much. It was so good. It was so good." And so I kind of went in there with the expectations and the concern that the follow-up barely really gets to overpower the original to begin with. Although I think Frozen 2 was pretty good, but um, I felt the exact same way. It felt disjointed. It felt like the animation was slightly different. Like the animators who did it last time didn't do it this time when the facial structure and the in
Mm.
like different parts that I noticed. Not that it wasn't great animation. I couldn't animate myself out of a paper bag, but I'm just saying it felt very it
Wait, is
didn't
that the
feel
bar? Whether or
yeah.
not you can animate it? Was that the bar for
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I could do this in my sleep. No, like what is this? Garbage. This is what you're choosing to do. Um, don't let Matthew Booker Jr. Um, and I felt like it was a little disjointed too. I really did feel like um the demigod with the like that was in the clam with the bats and everything really felt like a different movie. And I was like, when you said Hercules, I was like, yes. And it was like almost like that or Rasputin from Anastasia, which is not a Disney film. But like I I don't know, it just felt like a little different. And the music I was questioning myself about because you go in and you're like the music from the first Moana like is like blows you away.
Hmm.
The music was good. I wouldn't say there was any like major catchy like things, but I did appreciate that they used a lot more of the language, like the
Okay.
language of the
Oh,
people that they're representing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, that is cool because you're really bringing in that culture
Culture.
and you're
Yeah.
really trying to promote and to have people hear their own language spoken and sung and doing all that. I appreciated the art in that and I appreciated the representation. The songs were just okay. And other than that, and yeah, I just felt it was a little bit, they were almost trying to like patch together something, which
I,
I guess speaks to what you were saying
I
earlier.
I feel the same way. I felt like I felt like what they had was they had 5 episodes, one
Hmm.
song per episode, and cut them down because there were some interesting things that they were doing that didn't get explored very well. Like I don't know her name. I like that you called her Bat Lady. But Bat Lady, that whole thing about Bat Lady, that I liked her song about, learning how to let go. Like the whole I thought, oh,
Well,
this is
there's
an
always another
interesting,
way. That was a good
yeah,
lesson.
it's a good lesson, but it's said and it's over. But I felt like that would have been an episode. And then it moved here and it moved here. Lin-Manuel Miranda has said that the only reason he didn't do it is he was already working on Lion King. Um,
Interesting. Mufasa.
Mufasa.
Mufasa?
Yeah.
But
Huh.
remove the bat storyline altogether. It contributes nothing to the overall story other than her um, drawing them to this portal or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I can't think of a reason why that happened. Yes, if you stay after the credits, there's an end scene,
Yeah.
and it does involve the Bat Lady and the god that she was working for, I believe,
Yeah, the
or at least the
story.
god who was trying to stop them or whatever it was. And it leaves the door open for a Moana 3, I guess, or perhaps a series.
That's what the kids said that I was with. They were like, Moana 3. And
Yeah. But the thing is, the direction, I mean, if they do that with the direction of the Bat Lady kind of storyline, I'm not vibing with that at all. I was actually very excited though that they brought back Tamatoa in the in
Oh
yes,
the end
yeah.
credit scene. Thank
I was so
goodness.
excited.
Oh my gosh. But that's the thing, like, are they going to win all the awards for the soundtrack? Absolutely not. I think it was Moana's second ballad, closer to the beginning of the film. That was really nice. And whoever did the soundtrack for this one, whoever did the music, the song Maui's like signature song that he did
Mm.
Oh yeah.
definitely had Lin-Manuel Miranda vibes. And that's what had me questioning initially if he was involved or not. It didn't sound like him at all, except that song. It's like the
The repetitive,
cadence.
yeah,
Yeah. That sounded like him. So I just think they tried a little too hard to recreate the first one.
mhm.
Um, but I thought some of the music was good, just some. The other stuff was basic for me.
I
Yeah,
feel like if this came out on Disney Plus, none of us would blink. I think we would say, "Oh,
Yeah.
that was fun." And
yeah.
I actually really hope, like, if you want to give us Moana 3, and they've
Where do
told
you
us
go
they're
with
giving us
it?
Moana 3, and it's going to make like $1 billion, this movie. Um, I really hope that they say, okay, this is where our money is, and then they go back to investing in it. Like, I just felt like it
Mm.
was, and it's not that if it's on streaming, it's lesser. I thought Dream Productions on streaming is so good. I think Dream Productions is a really good little series that if you haven't, it's the follow-up to Inside Out. that's on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Really cute. I thought it was really well
Good.
done. It shouldn't have been a movie, and it wasn't. If that had come to theaters, I'd feel less about it. But because it's on Disney Plus, I enjoyed it. I thought the same thing. I thought, um,
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't pay for this movie. I mean, I did, but
again,
Yeah.
um, I think that, like I said, Julie, Jossie said the same thing. I looked at him afterwards and he said, this much better than the first one, which is
What
shocking
did you
because
which
say?
is giving
Moana
it
and,
credit.
pardon?
That's giving it credit. I was like, I think it was this much worse than the
But
Here's what I'll say. I think, and I don't know, I'm still kind of playing this one out in my head.
Mhm.
There was a simplicity to the first Moana. It
Yes.
was very warm and comforting, and I'm thinking of it in with the metaphor of the island, right?
Mhm.
It was the island. And now, as with Moana 2, they're venturing out. I appreciate the storyline of wanting to venture out and see what else is out there. They know that they can now. That fear, that grief, it's no longer holding them back.
Mhm.
But I think they took it too far. There were too many offshoots of
mm,
this storyline that were unnecessary. The storyline of them venturing out and trying to find this island and raise it up and reconnect all of the other islands, I think it is a fantastic storyline.
Yeah,
But
I loved it.
they didn't see it through to its full potential. It almost seemed like a second thought because they paid too much attention to the bat lady. And I think, as I said before, the simplicity of Moana, I think they tried to overcomplicate it with too many more characters.
Yes,
I
yeah, I agree.
appreciated that they brought the crew along on the boat, but it again, they didn't really add much to it. To the I don't know, they just paid too much to they spent too much time on it.
Mhm.
So it was just a great idea, but the direction was skewed a little bit.
Yeah.
I agree with that 100%, and I still think that comes back to it being a series because
Yeah.
even though
Yes.
the runtime is about the same, like if you have, let's say you got 5 episodes at 25 or 23 minutes or something, it's still about the same as a movie,
Hmm.
but you write differently.
Yeah.
You write in a box, you write in 5 boxes. And that's what this movie felt like to me was multiple boxes.
Mhm.
Check them off here and there. The soundtrack has grown on me. Joss listens to it in the car quite frequently. He really likes it. It's not as strong as the first one. Beyond is a good song, and Can I Get a Chi-Who is fun.
Hmm.
Yeah, but
But
isn't
there's
that just an offshoot of that stupid, like, can I get a Hoya? You know that
I don't
Oh,
know.
stupid,
that's
you know
funny.
it, right, Julie?
Yes,
That's all I
unfortunately.
heard. It's my kids running around at school going, can I get a Hoya? And I'm like, I hate
Was
this.
it the Maui
I hate
song?
this. Are you,
Yeah. What did he say? It's something like,
yeah,
come on,
Chi-Who.
Moana. And I'm like, oh gosh,
Yeah.
that's so cheesy. But it is a decent song. But I think it's a decent song because they tried really hard to be Lin-Manuel Miranda. But anyway, that's the thing. They were trying to uh I guess overshoot what they did in the first one. It was so successful from a musical perspective that they tried very hard. And they needed to get like all those nice ballads in there. I don't know.
Yeah, it was choppy and it felt like they were like, "Oh, let's make a series." And then like 5 episodes in we're like, "We have like nowhere to go from here, I guess." Like or it's taking too much time, it's taking too much money. Let's just mush it in and get it into a movie so we can still make something off of it.
I
Yeah,
wonder if they had a contract to see if
Yeah.
they just kind of like repurposed it to fulfill something that they had to do.
I don't know if they had them on contract though, because my understanding is that they came on later in the process. Like they announced it as a film before The Rock and Carvalho, and
Yeah.
I always mispronounce her name, signed on.
Hmm.
So again, this speaks to it being a series, right? It's like, okay, we're
Hmm.
going to do this thing, and we're not going to get this guy. We'll get this guy that sounds like that guy.
Hmm.
Um, but so I don't know. I mean, it's fun. The movie's still fun, but
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
there's
It
fun
is.
moments, there's exciting moments. It's a little bit more scary than the last one in the
Yeah,
sense that I feel like there's a
Lily,
little
my
bit more.
10-year-old, she went into it saying that the bat scene was a little creepy or whatever,
Mhm.
which is fair. Um, but I wanted to speak to something that you said, Catherine, at the beginning about sort of the culture and the diversity.
Mhm.
And I did notice that they had um, more accents, like more like New Zealand accents and stuff like that. In this one, I feel like in the first, like there were a few, but I'd say the majority of it wasn't those Polynesian accents. And also, obviously, at the end, where people from different islands start coming and we're looking at different skin tones and different cultures. And I'm like, it was very, very good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's not
That's
hard.
such a good point that you just don't even know how to respond.
Yeah, yeah,
I was
you're
so
just like, oh,
pensive. I
pull
was
me
waiting. I was like,
away.
oh,
Well, because
Yeah.
I was thinking about that too and how they all came together and like because this island was raised and I know Moana is like the chosen one, but I was thinking if they had cut out certain parts and made it so that they kind of like she said it's humans that he was trying to get rid of. And I was like, "Oh, is that why they brought on this like ragtag bunch of new people, right?" But I'm which was overwhelming and didn't go very much. But I'm like, I wonder if it would have been better had they taken that the part out about the clam and I love those little coconut guys though. They're very cute.
the
Um
Kakamora.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was kind of a trend in this one too, how the villains were not necessarily villains. They were just
Yeah.
acting based on their lived experience, right? They're
Yeah.
trying, it's like it's more of a survival thing. The Bat Lady, you just assume that she's a villain, and at the end, well, not at the end, but she ends up helping Moana. Um, and then the Kakamora coconuts are they're just protecting or trying to find their way back to their home. So
Yeah.
I thought that was very, very interesting that there was technically a lack of a villain. Although, end
Until the
credit
post
scene.
credit.
Exactly.
Right.
So I appreciated that sentiment of uh I was just going to quote something from Wicked. Are people born wicked, or do they
Yeah.
have wickedness thrust upon them? You know what I mean? It's that vibe, right? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and like that stuff is great. And honestly, I did talk to the kids I was with and we're like, "Oh, she seemed really scary, but she's actually just trapped, right?" Like and it talks about like the hierarchy of like the demigods and stuff like that. But had they taken that out and just gone on their own and like we're doing this and then on the way met up with these people who are they didn't know and didn't know the languages of but had to get together to beat this storm god that might have been almost better because I'm like, yes, like maybe they're all finding their way there. It's not just one person. Like we all have adventure in us and we all have a want for more. So they were fighting their own battles we didn't see. And it was the humans that ended up defeating him, which is what they needed, like with Maui. And I'm like, that might have gone a little bit more smoothly as a movie, I would say. I'm like my speech right
Except,
now.
except there's the whole point of it was that there were no humans anywhere else.
But there clearly were. They were looking for, as well. They came as soon as they were called.
Right. That's fair.
Right? Like there were no humans for them. Like maybe there was a Moana on each of their islands, you know, like maybe one of the like a leader like that was looking for that knew the stories. And then they had to band together without knowing each other. I don't know. I'm not a movie writer. I was just saying like maybe that would have made it like a smoother movie.
Catherine wants it to be the Wizard of Oz. So we're back to Wicked. Um,
Yeah, let's do that movie. We have a lot.
you know what would be
How
great is
was
if
Wow.
that slotted on? That's what I want to know.
when they get to the final battle, they find out that they've been manipulated the entire time by something else.
And the storm god was Moana's father all
That's
along.
right.
It
Oh my
was
God.
so good. I want to talk more about your princess stuff though, Steve, because I have thoughts on that.
Well, since that part wasn't actually in the episode, I should explain that because that's a
Oh
very
yeah.
weird, interesting way to phrase it. with my princess stuff. Um,
Steve's princess stuff. There's your tagline. Oh
no, well, I
God.
was wondering about that about this film because I wondered what you thought, whether or not there's still a stigma about being a Disney princess, because that was a huge deal, I would say 15 years ago.
Hmm.
And we've got a whole new wave. And there's even and Moana, both in this film and in the previous film, insists she's not a princess, which is kind of funny because her father's chief, is he not? So anyway, um, but I would love to hear from you both. What do you think about that? Has that moniker
So there must
changed?
be another name for her daughter.
So the one thing that I kept thinking going into this movie was I hope they don't introduce a love interest. I appreciated that so much about Moana 1 that there was no love interest. She was just who she was and she was finding herself, and that was okay. And they didn't have to take it down that stereotypical Disney princess route, right?
Mhm.
Although Maui will say, or was it Maui who said
Now
it,
he's going to get a
that
Chi-Hu.
she's being right, that he was saved, or sorry, she was saved by a man or this and that, right? Um, you know, technically, yeah, she's the daughter of the chief of the island. She's like royalty on the island. I'm wondering if in the second one, if she was chief
He
at
was
that
still
point,
chief.
or if he
Yeah.
was still chief. Her father could. Okay. Oh yes, because I remember he kind of granted her with the title of I don't
Wayfarer.
remember.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I think that she's probably in the lineage of Disney princesses. But she kind of is her own subsection, if you will.
I'm really glad that they didn't have a a love interest. I saw that like, the people were interested, but she was so focused on what she wanted. And I agree with her. I'm like, she's not a princess. And then I wish I had more time to look into Princess Tiana because I don't think she's a princess either. Well, she is now because she married a prince, but like approach to princesses, they're all like Cinderella, Snow White, married into British royalty. And although different nationality, different countries, different people have their sense of royalty, I feel like even in I'm gonna say in some, and I'm not indigenous cultures, there is like the chief and go back to, or like a castle and sub like servants and all of this stuff. And I find it, yeah, like all of our Disney princesses only became princesses because they married a man with a title. Like Cinderella wasn't a princess, Sleeping Beauty wasn't a princess, Snow White wasn't a princess until they married in this like colonial castle and were saved by someone. And Moana isn't a princess. She is the chief's daughter and she is seen as someone who has a high standing in her community, but they're all community. They're working together to build this place. And I don't think that that's important to them as much as it would be for Cinderella or Snow White or anything like that. And she's got her own title. She's like a wayfinder. She's
Yeah.
not chief. She may take over as chief if her father passes, but that's not like taking on what we would see as a normal princess role. And I
But
use normal in quotation marks.
but are we afraid of the term now like we used to be? Because I
No,
know you don't think so?
no, I think everybody knows the princesses. No one's saying like tear down the the princess structure. We all love it, but I think that there's a lot that comes with the title that Moana isn't doesn't adhere to. She lives with her people. Yes, princesses can be part of the community, but she's saying that she's not, and she never grew up as one, and she's never been like through this formal Princess Mulan type training to become one. And I think it speaks really highly to the importance of like community over casting, like caste systems.
Yeah,
That
I
might have
think
sounded crazy and rambly, but I was just like, yes,
no,
yes,
I
you're
that
not a
that totally
princess.
makes sense. The only thing I was gonna say was that, yeah, I do think in recent years people have pushed against
Mhm.
the idea of the Disney princess because in past movies, they're all very stereotypical in that way. But then again, that was also a sign of the times. I mean,
Oh
it
yeah.
was decades and like a century ago at this point, when more than a century when some of these were made originally, right? So that's just kind of how society was at that time.
Hmm.
And perhaps it took Disney a little bit longer to kind of get with the times, so to speak, and evolve their female protagonists. But I think that they're doing a pretty good job with it, especially with Moana.
Yeah, it is a sign of the times. You're right. It was very much like back in the day, like we all and every culture has its own version of kings and queens and princesses, like the czars and everything like that. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it is a sign of the time. I don't think it's like terrible that the other princesses are called princesses and
Mm.
how those came about, but I totally respect the Moana character in that
It's
title.
almost a branding thing too. It's a
Yeah.
Oh
Disney
yeah.
princess. They might not necessarily be, but like look at Vanellope from Ralph. That was a whole thing, right? Oh, is
Oh
she a
yeah.
princess?
Oh, that scene, I was
Um,
gonna say that scene where she rips into the princesses
Are you
yeah,
guys
is
okay?
brilliant.
hilarious. But yeah, it's a label. It's a label that's at this point a Disney princess.
Yeah, and I think they've done a good job of giving strength to their female characters across the board. I just think they've done a better job. They've made a conscious effort. I would say, uh, I want to say since Princess and the Frog for sure,
Hmm.
but Tangled, I'm still not sure on. But certainly, like in the last decade and a half with Frozen, which is his own thing, Moana,
Yeah.
Encanto, and they've gotten away from that love interest storyline. But that's what that I sort of laughed, Julie, because they did leave the door open for a love interest, and it's just not for her.
Yeah,
They gave
they
one to
definitely.
Maui.
Well, that's interesting because I was concerned that that character, I can't remember his name, but I was like, oh, maybe he's coming on the trip because they're going to fall in love. But
Yeah.
he was just fully enamored with Maui. And I don't know if it's just like a fangirl moment or if he's like he needs to get with Maui. You know what I mean? Or maybe both.
No, I'm not even talking about him. I'm talking about
About
Bat
Bat
Lady.
Lady.
Bat Lady.
Because she said he did look good though at the end.
Oh, I think I missed that.
And they were having that like banter. Like she wasn't trying to kill him. She was trying to keep him where he was.
Mm,
And then at the end, she's like, if they find out that I helped, I'm gonna be in big trouble. When she was talking to Bat, and she's like, yeah, and then Maui, he did look good though. And like there was
interesting.
definitely a little bit of a
Maui's
if
gonna get a Chi-Hu. That's what I'm telling you.
But do you know what's interesting? Love and new love was sort of addressed in this film, but it wasn't like a love interest. It was family, right? And that's
yeah,
Yeah.
always been the
moment.
main, I think, focus for Moana is
Hmm.
family and community.
Yeah.
But now they've given her a sister, right?
Yeah.
And so when Moana went off on her first journey, she knew it was dangerous and she knew there was risks, but um she felt like it was just her, right?
Yeah.
Now there's something back home that she needs to come back for, right? It's almost like she has more of a purpose now than just
Mhm.
her community and the future of the people. But it's almost like she's feeling that, what would you call it? That responsibility to
Like
almost like a
Elsa.
child back home because there's such an age gap. That's kind of the vibe I was getting, and I thought that was very interesting. I was curious to know how the sister storyline would be represented.
Mhm.
But I thought it gave a bit of depth and complexity to Moana's character. You can see that it's still Moana, but there was a bit of a um, maturity.
Yeah.
And a bit of a hesitation too. Like I did really like the sister aspect of it too. And the two things that caught me were I don't know, I don't remember which song it was like in the but before she left, she was worried because like her family is here, everyone is here, and she's going to be leaving and missing out, and who knows like when she or if she's coming back. So it kind of gave that vibe too. It reminded me of Frozen
Yes,
when Elsa is going in Frozen 2 when she's like, I'm just going to ignore your calls because everything I love and everyone I have is here. And she ends up almost like painfully having to leave to go follow that and to find that. And that does speak to maturity and a greater purpose, I think, as well.
Well, see,
I
and
like
there,
that.
okay, that's a great point because that's one of the things I think even in this conversation about modern princess discussions with Disney, love has evolved. Love
Yeah.
has evolved in Disney films. It used to just be Prince Charming, who was, I think he's the name of like three different princes, um, kisses the princess and everything is fixed.
Hmm.
But I think love has taken on a broader sense. I mean, what do you guys think about that?
it's fascinating when you look at. I mean, they've put a lot of weight into a sister love. Um, but again, talking about Vanellope, her and Ralph are just friends. You know what I mean? But they would do anything together. Let me think. I mean, where else are we going to go with this? I mean, there's obviously the parent and child love, which you see in many places. I keep thinking about Bao, which is like
Oh my gosh,
shockingly
I
sad.
cried, but I
Jeez, Bao, that'll hit you. Um,
what about even in the newest one, Inside Out 2? It wasn't a sister, it was a friend group, right? Like
yeah,
she was wrestling with who she was becoming and having those friends and those feelings and really needing them in the end
absolutely.
to get
I
through.
really love the idea that you said that love has evolved in Disney
Mhm.
films. I think it's fascinating. I'm curious to see where it's going to go.
Yeah.
I think shifting gears here a little bit. I've often said the problem with Wish, which I actually enjoyed. I enjoyed Wish. I thought Wish was more comprehensive than Moana 2 myself. Hot take. A lot of people didn't like Wish. But I thought the problem with Wish is that they tried to take old Disney and new Disney and mash them together because it was like the 100th birthday movie. But they
Oh,
tried to do that with the ideas. They tried to do that with the ideas. So like, in Wish, Asha, I forget her character's name. Anyway, the main young woman, they switch from like when you wish upon a star to like the power's in you. You see what I mean? Like so, but when you hold them up against each other, you could say, well, that's a sign of the times. But I think it shows how far they've come because they've matured the way, like they've genuinely. So like Moana, in the first film, is learning how to essentially how to lead.
How to lead. Yeah, that's interesting.
You
And
know.
she got a taste of that when she had to bring a crew with her,
hmm.
right? And they had no clue what was going on. So yeah, that was very interesting actually.
Yeah, so I think here though, what like her love is broader. It's a love for her people. It's almost like a social
Hmm.
love, a family. I think family was key in the first one. This one, I mean, like you said, the sister is there, but I really think that like her vision isn't just beyond I want to explore. It's like I want to help everybody,
Hmm.
Yeah.
bring everyone home. I don't know. I think the way that love is expressed has changed entirely in Disney films, and I think that affects positively
Hmm.
the idea of Disney princess. I think that has shifted the idea of what it looks like.
Well,
Yeah.
I think one of Moana's largest forms of love is sacrifice. because she fully understood what she was getting herself into and that there was a very high likelihood that she would not survive. But it had to be done in order to save the people. So I mean, it was a fantastic storyline.
And we see that also now in Elsa.
Yep.
Um, uh, do we see that in Mirabelle? I'm trying to remember what Mirabelle's
Um,
thing was.
I wouldn't call her someone who sacrifices, but somebody who mends almost
Yeah. And someone who's looking to find out who they are as a person and how they fit into their own community.
because she completely felt uh on the outs, you know.
Yeah.
She was the only one without a special power. So she had to find herself, and then through finding herself is how she connected everybody again.
Yeah. I think they're making some good moves, just even like in the community aspect and finding oneself and understanding in the sense that, like, in the past, and no hate to the past because I love so many movies. Once the prince and princess were married, the kingdom was saved and everyone went back to normal. Whereas, like, even here, like, in so many of these things now, it's like the prince, like, the character won and got what they needed and stuff, but there's still so much work to be done. Like, it just doesn't end there at that magical moment. And I think that speaks really well about how they're handling society as a whole and, like, just like real life.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because in Moana 1, you assume that what she did fixed everything,
Yeah.
right? Because the disease from Tafiti wasn't just on their island, it was everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you assumed that that fixed it.
Mhm.
But it didn't. I don't know. Like I think, she cured that disease, and so the islands were able to flourish again, but they were still on their own islands, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting how this one island, what did they say? It was almost like the tide.
Yeah, it was almost like the changing currents.
Yeah, where the currents kind of
Because they had to
connected.
fight a current or two as well, right? Like, the
Yes.
sea is not your friend, or, like, you know, she had to rectify those currents to bring everyone back to where they met up, I guess.
Yeah, so I guess now that the island was back, the currents were, and they could like navigate them better. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and so I guess now, even though everybody's on their own islands, they can access one another,
Hmm.
and they can, um, I guess, utilize resources that they might not have on those islands. And
Star
yeah,
Wars and no, I'm just kidding.
That's
so I,
right.
yeah,
That's
I think
right.
if they
Pirating is it's begun.
hilarious. And was it the clay pot that she found initially? I
Yeah.
did
It
she
was just
say that it was made out of something that I guess they didn't have? What was it? I can't
it
remember.
was just their it wasn't their artwork. So she could tell by the drawings on there that someone else had been there.
Yeah, and plus it had people on it.
Yeah, and it had
So
a
there had to have been people on a different island other than
yeah.
Motunui. Hmm. Yeah.
So
It's
at
see,
one
this is what
time
I
there
think
was
it's
a
such a
different
fascinating storyline.
it
It's so
is.
good, and I would have loved to see it flourish a little bit more.
Same.
Yeah. It felt like, though, they had a bunch of ideas and didn't spend a lot of time with it. Like I like that you said, I think you said it was unfocused.
Hmm.
Um, you know, it's not peak Disney, but
No.
but I will say if they go back to the inner or like making a film, if the intent for a third one is we're going to make a film, then I think it's going to receive the proper attention and focus, and we'll see a stronger entry for a sequel. I
Well, the
think.
kids cheered at the after the end credits, like,
Yeah.
because when um what's the name of the shiny crab?
Tomatoa.
Tomatoa, when they saw Tomatoa, they were like, yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun moment. And this film has fun moments. I mean, it's got fun moments, but well, on that note, we should screen it or skip it. Moana 2, screen it or skip it. Or sail it or sink it.
Oh
Huh?
my God.
Oh, I would stream it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say
I
too.
would stream it. I wouldn't bother spending the money going to the theater for this one. I think that this could be an easy Disney Plus situation.
Hmm.
Um,
And you
yeah,
don't have to pay $30 for that Moana bucket that the kids will want.
exactly. Like that's the thing. Like it's not a bad film by any stretch of the imagination, but if you're going into it expecting um an amazing ride like Moana number one, it does fall short slightly. But if you do go into it knowing that it was meant to be different episodes, then I think you'll understand it a little bit more.
Yeah, that's good information to have.
What do you think, Kat? Are you
I agree. I would say like if you want to see it, stream it. If you don't want to, if you're like on the fence, like, do I need to? Then just skip it. But it's definitely a stream. Don't go see it in the theaters.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I agree with that. I mean, I would even border on skip it, other than the fact that, hey, I want to continue watching Moana. I want to see a new Moana adventure. Fine. Uh,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like if you're like, ooh, I'm curious, then don't be 25.99 curious. Be
And you know what? At the end of the day, the kids are going to love it.
yeah,
yeah,
The kids
they'll
could
sit
care
there.
less, right? So if you're going to show it to your kids, great. You're going to have a great like daddy daughter date or whatever it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going into it like as someone who enjoys film and really enjoyed Moana 1 as an adult, just have your expectations set in advance. That's all.
Hmm.
I
I
would
only went
even.
because I was going with kids, and I am really glad that I went with them because if I had gone by myself with a friend, I would have been like, what the heck?
I would even feel better. Although I will say this, I did think the animation was excellent. I thought there was a huge step up in that. Personally, I
It's
thought it looked great. I
beautiful.
thought it looked
It's
beautiful.
so pretty.
I would feel better about recommending Mufasa if you want to go see a Disney movie. It's
How much can we squeeze out of this one story?
no, yeah, it's true. And I'm not even saying Mufasa's
Like,
incredible,
didn't they just
but it's a
make
big
the
step
live?
up from the last one. Huge step up from the
Oh,
last
Is
I
one.
it
didn't watch the
interesting?
last
They
one.
fixed a lot
And
of the
it's like
problems.
a prequel. Is that prequel?
Pretty
Prequel?
quiz.
A prequel.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's about the brotherly relationship between Mufasa and Jafar. What?
Whoa,
Universes are melting.
talk about a
We're
collab.
talking too much Disney.
We should this has been great, but we should probably wrap this up. I appreciate you both so much. And a reminder, you can find us wherever podcasts are available. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok. And if you go to the podcast page at screenfish.net, you can get the latest in movie reviews and interviews as well. Thank you both again. I appreciate you. And for you at home, we started the conversation. This was Screenfish.